doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.
And I'm going to key up now Remonda, who is going to be our final speaker for this second panel. And Remonda, you've really been at the forefront of revolutionizing regulatory compliance and client onboarding in the financial services sector. And I almost bumped into so much controversy because there I came looking into the RegTech space, having the gall to talk to well-steeped RegTech specialists about RegTech being applied to trade and not solely financial services. And as I was very fortunate to find people earlier on who said, look, RegTech solves regulatory compliance related issues. But we're very interested to get your views because you've run the journey, and the journey, regardless of which sector you apply it to, is going to be very similar, one would imagine. You'll help clarify that now. But I'd be very interested to just get your views on what lessons and experiences from a RegTech player and investor you feel could be applied from how your journey's evolved, pioneering RegTech in the fintech space to ideas and strategies and tactics that we can use on the continent and regulators can make provisions for to really drive RegTech for benefit for the continental free trade area in Africa. Over to you, Remonda.
Thank you very much, Hubert, and thanks for everyone for having me here. It's actually been an absolutely fascinating 2+ hours now, listening to the different views and hearing different opinions and how RegTech could be applied, for example, to Africa and of course elsewhere. For me at least, the journey has started many years ago. I've been in the sector now, financial services, for 20 years. My background is a lawyer. I lived in many European countries as well as outside. And actually one particular area that has always fascinated me for probably decades now is data. Data is phenomenal. Data can make a lot of things. Data can definitely empower societies, empower nations, empower businesses, and it can move pretty much continents forward. One thing we realized in our journey, at least, whilst building our, if you like, RegTech solution to the financial sector, is the journey for us started actually building basically machine learning tools in order to aid financial services, in particular financial firms, whether that be in a bank, whether it's a hedge fund, whether it's asset management firms, etc., on a cross-border basis to be able to do business with ease and without much of the headache that they're encountering today in terms of trying to gain legal opinions. Can we do business, for example, from England to Africa? What can we do with our clients? How can we onboard them with ease without the complexity that's actually sitting in the legislation? So for us, the journey definitely was fascinating, exciting. And in that process, we realized that actually a lot of the data that governments may be sitting on, a lot of laws, for example, as Chris quite rightly mentioned, is actually still in paper and often in many cases, even in languages that today very few people can speak. So of course, that actually created one major obstacle for us in building a RegTech solution that actually truly empowered, if you like, the financial sector to operate. And our vision with it is a triangle. It's to allow regulators to regulate, allow financial firms to comply, and allow investors at the end of it to actually have the protection that they need. But of course, we found that unfortunately that a lot of the legislation, a lot of the actually permissions that we were working with, whether in our sector, it could be permissions, what is a bank allowed to do, what can they do cross-border, what is a financial firm allowed to do, again, in terms of product, services, clients, you name it. We actually found that the permissions that these bodies, if you like, it could be like a driving license if you want to compare it, they had absolutely no idea, and neither did the regulators, even in our part of the world in Europe. So we actually went through many years now. Our company has been founded 8 years ago to start cleansing the data and structure it. And we work with a lot of regulators actually to get that data in some sort of digitized form in order for the market to be able to utilize it. And that has proven to be a phenomenal journey, and definitely one that is needed in order to get to the level of RegTech that we wanted to achieve out of a solution to the market. For me, if we even want to compare it to another level of the KYC AML that I know has been referenced in the first panel and also in this one, even if we look at that, how easy is it really to identify a person and identify their residency just by merely using blockchain? It's not possible. It's in fact impossible today because we're not sitting on common utilities that can be plugged into the technologies that we are seeing today, whether that's blockchain, whether it's using ML, whether it's using AI. It's actually virtually impossible, even in our part of the world. And this is where I feel that Africa can definitely learn from these experiences and actually utilize it as a stepping stone to start from a clean slate and try to figure out how do we start from the first instance of actually putting the legislation in a meaningful manner in some sort of digitized form that allows regulators to read it, understand it, and actually utilize it for supervision, and then allow the market participant to build on that in order to ensure small businesses, big businesses, whichever sector can actually comply. And that, of course, is one of the biggest challenges that we face in our part of the world. And of course, we're experiencing, Chris quite rightly pointed out, you're seeing a lot of sandboxes pretty much around the world these days, not only in Europe, for sure, not in Asia, and hopefully soon also in Africa, where they're actually learning from what's happening. Our dilemma in the first year is that if we want to utilize, in fact, the concept of investors coming in and actually investing in those solutions, how many investors do you think would say, Remonda, we love this, this is fantastic, you're not going to make any money on it because all you're doing the first 4 years is cleansing data for the regulators. And that has been actually a huge challenge for us, partly because, of course, the business opportunity was absolutely there, but it wasn't there from day one, and we knew it was going to be a long journey, and we are getting there. And that's something that actually has been very interesting. In 2012, when our company was founded, RegTech wasn't even a concept. People asked us, what are you doing? I left fantastic positions prior to doing this, purely because it was a dream. It's a dream to fix a real problem that was not local, it was global, and it still is a global problem that it's hindering businesses from capturing opportunities to do cross-border, whether it's Africa or elsewhere, to be very frank. And that actually has been a lesson for us. If I'm to advise many businesses today, how do you go about this? I would definitely say you will struggle if you're trying to fix a global problem like this. You need to pretty much get to the regulators now with the sandboxes and make them commit. The problem we have today with a lot of these sandboxes and the market is they can't endorse. Endorsing means that they're picking a solution that may make sense. How do you then select, how do you create a competitive field for other players to come in? We love competition. Competition is the way forward in every single trade or project or anything. And of course, for us actually to really try to see how do we go out into the market and try to show that these solutions is what the future would look like. We're technically building AI to actually manage all this workflow from the regulators all the way to underlying investors that could be any of you on this call today. And that is definitely a rewarding connectivity of finding the problem from the source and making sure that it's connected right until the end. And of course, KYC, AML, as an example, we're actually doing a lot more than that on our proprietary engine can come to play. And that's where local countries, whether you look Africa as one or Africa as 54, you need to actually build it as a utility in order to build the trust, which we spoke about also initially, and allow others to come in, other players that want to help out, other players that want to make a difference and change and build a future for the next generation. But of course, what comes with all that now and that's probably going to be a challenge in any event, is of course, how do you control all these blockchains, all these artificial intelligence, who's running them, who's controlling them, which companies, which countries. And on top of that as well, you have now the ethical AI coming into play in our part of the world, in Europe. So when you go out and you're building those RegTech tools, I'm not talking about a small Excel sheet that becomes automated. I'm talking big, where you are technically changing the way that the whole future is going to look for the next generation. And we are definitely getting there. And by getting there, we need the support of the regulators, we need the support of the market players, and of course also the investors, to actually see it as a connectivity and not just as one single opportunity to harness a change in a small sector. What we are doing today can be taken to the medical sector, it can be looked at in the trade, it can be looked at in pretty much everything that we are doing today. It's a triangle, and that triangle can be connected. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. And basically, the young generation that are coming with dreams, we had that mentioned a lot on the first panel, where they're becoming creative. Don't kill them, empower them. Give them the tools to make those changes and to actually find out what could potentially impact a lot of these in the future. And you'll find that many of the best tools that you see in the market today, Hubert, we talked about Tariq not long ago, you'll find they all started in a small company with a small dream that became big.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.